Welcome back. Tonight, we drift through the sleepy streets of ancient Rome. So wherever you are, however your day has been, you have nothing to do now but rest. There are no twists tonight, nothing to follow, nothing you need to remember in the morning. A city of warm marble and terracotta roofs, growing still beneath a soft violet dusk, will drift slowly, in no hurry to be anywhere at all. If these journeys help you rest, you're welcome to follow along, but only if you'd like to. And if you're listening now, leave the name of your city and the time where you are. Wherever you're listening from, you're in good company tonight. So let yourself settle. Let your shoulders soften and let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Breathe in slowly. And let it go. There's no need to stay awake for any of this. Just let the streets of ancient Rome come to you. The story of this vast empire begins with a simple trick of the water. Long before the grand temples rose, the river flowed fast and deep. But a small piece of land broke the current. This boat-shaped island slowed the rushing water just enough. It created a shallow spot where a person could safely walk across. Ancient salt traders found this natural ford and used it to cross the valley. Without this slight geological accident, the capital would not sit here. The island gave travelers a reason to stop and rest. Soon, small camps grew on the muddy banks. You can still see how the water parts around the stone edges today. The river moves a little slower here, just as it did thousands of years ago. It is a quiet reminder of how a few shallow steps built a world. The water still shapes the quiet rhythm of the city. Those early traders did not stay down by the water for long. The river was a lifeline, but it was also a threat. Every year, heavy rains sent dark floodwaters rushing through the low valleys. To survive, the first settlers climbed the steep ridges nearby. They built their simple huts high up on the green slopes. The famous 7 hills were not chosen for their sweeping views. They were chosen simply to keep families dry. From the high ground, they could watch the water swallow the land below. The hills offered safety and a place to sleep in peace. Over time, these high camps grew into permanent neighborhoods. The steep climbs became part of the daily routine. Even now you can feel the city rise and fall as you walk. The shape of the land still dictates where the streets must go. The high ground remains a quiet refuge from the noise below. As the hilltop camps grew, the people needed a better way to cross the water. They built their first bridge entirely out of heavy timber beams. The builders did not use a single iron nail to hold it together. This was not because they lacked the right tools. It was a clever and quiet defense mechanism. If an enemy army marched toward the river, the town needed to react fast. Workers could quickly pull the wooden joints apart by hand. The whole structure would drop into the rushing water below. The river would become a natural wall once again. The wooden bridge stood as a temporary handshake between the two shores. It was strong enough for daily life, but fragile enough to keep the people safe. The water flowed freely beneath the heavy wooden planks. It was a simple design that perfectly matched the needs of a young, cautious town. Down in the valley between the hills, the land was still wild. It was a dark, stagnant swamp filled with mosquitoes and disease. No one could live in that muddy basin. But the growing town needed a central place to meet and trade. Early engineers decided to change the shape of the earth. They dug a massive, deep trench through the mud. This channel drained the dark water straight into the river. The wet ground slowly dried out and became firm. That empty space became the most famous public square in the world. The muddy valley turned into a shared floor for markets and temples. People came down from the hills to talk, trade, and vote. The heart of the city only exists because someone moved the water away. The ground still feels solid under your feet today. It is hard to imagine the quiet swamp that used to rest there. The valleys were not just muddy. They were loud with rushing water. Deep streams cut through the low ground, keeping the hills apart. To truly unite the town, the builders had to tame these wild creeks. They did not just build small bridges over the water. They built massive stone arches right over the streams. Then, they dumped tons of earth and rubble on top of the stone. They buried the rivers alive beneath the new streets. The water kept flowing in the dark, hidden from the sun. Above ground, the deep valleys became flat, walkable roads. Neighborhoods grew right over the rushing water. The sound of the streams faded into the background of city life. Even today, ancient water still moves quietly beneath the paving stones. The city rests on a hidden network of buried creeks. The ground holds secrets that most people simply walk right over. With the city united, the leaders looked outward. They built a grand highway stretching far to the south. This famous road was not made for merchants or farmers. It was a cold, calculated tool for moving armies. The engineers laid the flat basalt stones in a perfectly straight line. They cut through hills and filled in swamps to keep the path direct. The road allowed soldiers to march quickly toward distant enemies. But this military project accidentally changed how the world traveled. It became the blueprint for a vast network of stone highways. The straight lines made travel faster and safer for everyone. Carts and travelers soon replaced the marching soldiers. The road became a quiet ribbon of stone cutting through the green countryside. Tall trees grew along the edges, offering shade to tired walkers. The stones still hold the deep grooves of ancient wooden wheels. Inside the city, the dirt roads turned to thick mud every winter. Heavy rain made it impossible to move goods or food. The leaders decided to pave the main streets with dark volcanic rock. Workers fitted large irregular blocks of basalt tightly together. The smooth stone surface changed the rhythm of daily life. Heavy wooden carts could now roll through the streets in any weather. The town no longer had to stop and wait for the mud to dry. It transformed from a quiet seasonal village into a busy year-round hub. The dark stones gleamed under the moonlight after a fresh rain. The sound of wheels on rock became the new heartbeat of the streets. The paving stones locked the city into a permanent shape. You can still walk on these exact same dark rocks today. They have carried the weight of millions of quiet footsteps over the centuries. As more people arrived, the city needed a massive amount of food. The local farms could not grow enough wheat to feed everyone. The leaders began importing huge shipments of grain from distant shores. This single need completely changed the southern edge of the city. Builders constructed a seemingly endless row of massive stone warehouses. This district became a dense, quiet zone dedicated entirely to food storage. The huge barrel-vaulted ceilings kept the grain cool and dry. Workers carried heavy sacks from the riverboats into the dark interiors. The air here always smelled of dry wheat and river water. This area felt completely different from the grand temples to the north. It was a practical, working neighborhood built for survival. The massive walls stood as a promise that the city would not go hungry. The scale of the building shows just how many mouths needed to be fed. For centuries, the local temples were built with heavy brick and dark clay. They looked solid, practical, and deeply tied to the earth. Then, the armies marched east and conquered new lands. This victory brought a wave of foreign artists and builders to the capital. These new arrivals completely rewrote the look of the streets. They introduced elegant, slender columns and bright white stone. The heavy clay roofs were replaced by delicate carved marble. The city began to look lighter, as if it were reaching for the sky. A delicate, circular temple rose near the river, shining in the sun. It stood in stark contrast to the older, darker buildings around it. The new style felt graceful and perfectly balanced. The streets slowly filled with these bright, imported designs. The city we picture today was born from this quiet artistic shift. The old brick town learned to wear a new, elegant mask. The shift to bright stone soon became a deliberate choice. The first emperor wanted to show the world that his rule meant peace. He opened massive new quarries in the northern mountains. workers cut thousands of tons of pure white rock from the earth. They flooded the capital with this gleaming, flawless material. The emperor used it to build a massive new public square. The bright walls projected an image of permanent, unshakable strength. The city transformed from a town of dusty brick into a vision of light. The white stone caught the golden afternoon sun beautifully. It made the streets feel wider and the shadows feel softer. This was not just a building project. It was a message carved in rock. The emperor wanted the people to feel safe and wealthy. The smooth, cool stone still feels peaceful when you rest your hand against it. Bringing all that heavy stone into the city was a massive task. The riverbank became a busy, dusty industrial zone. Thousands of tons of raw rock arrived on wooden barges every week. Workers unloaded huge blocks of colored stone from across the sea. This area turned into a permanent neighborhood of skilled stonecutters. The air was always thick, with fine white dust. The sound of metal chisels ringing against rock echoed from dawn until dusk. This dusty edge of town made the beautiful temples possible. The workers shaped the rough blocks into smooth, perfect columns. The ground was covered in a thick layer of discarded stone chips. It was a place of hard work and quiet focus. The beauty of the city center was born in this messy, loud riverbank. The dust eventually settled, leaving behind a legacy of perfect marble. The river still flows quietly past the old docks. While the center grew beautiful, the edges held strict rules. A sacred, invisible boundary wrapped around the heart of the city. Religious laws strictly forbade anyone from carrying weapons inside this line. This rule kept the streets safe, but it created a unique problem. Returning armies had to wait outside the boundary before their grand parades. A vast open grassy plain near the river became their waiting room. Soldiers pitched temporary tents and stacked their armor in the quiet mist. They rested on the soft grass, while the city slept nearby. This open field became a permanent staging ground for military triumphs. The flat land was perfect for gathering thousands of men and horses. The strict zoning law accidentally preserved this large green space for centuries. It was a quiet place of waiting, just steps away from the busy streets. The morning dew always settled heavily on the cold metal shields. Inside the boundary, the narrow streets were crowded and built of wood. When the sun went down, the city used to fall completely dark. People stayed inside, afraid of thieves and the constant threat of fire. Then, the emperor created a dedicated force of night watchmen. Thousands of men began patrolling the dark alleys with bronze lanterns. They carried heavy buckets of water to stop small fires from spreading. This simple change completely transformed the rhythm of the night. The soft glow of their lanterns made the shadows feel less dangerous. Businesses began to stay open later into the evening. People felt safe enough to walk home under the stars. The night watchman brought a new sense of calm to the sleeping city. You could hear their quiet footsteps echoing on the cobblestones. The night was no longer something to fear, it was just a quieter part of the day. Despite the watchman, a catastrophic fire eventually swept through the streets. The flames erased 2/3 of the winding wooden neighborhoods. The destruction was total, leaving behind only gray ash and quiet ruins. But the engineers saw the empty land as a blank canvas. They laid out a completely new urban grid over the ashes. They designed wider, straighter streets that let the wind blow through. They passed strict laws requiring all new buildings to have stone faces. The old, chaotic alleys were replaced by orderly, open avenues. This tragedy forever changed the physical rhythm of the neighborhoods. The new city felt more spacious, and breathed much easier. The wide stone streets caught the bright midday sun perfectly. The disaster forced the city to grow up, and build for the future. The straight lines brought a new sense of calm order to the daily walk. The scars of the fire faded beneath the fresh stone. In the middle of the burnt city, a previous ruler had built a selfish prize. He took a massive area of public land for his own private palace. He even dug a huge artificial lake, just for his own amusement. When a new ruling family took power, they wanted to win the people back. They drained the private lake, and filled the muddy basin with stone. They built a massive towering amphitheater right on top of it. This was a brilliant piece of political theater. They took stolen land, and gave it back to the public as an entertainment venue. The huge stone arches rose high above the surrounding streets. The building was a daily reminder that the city belonged to the people again. The morning sun cast long, beautiful shadows through the open arches. The structure was a gift, wrapped in heavy travertine stone. It still stands as a symbol of public memory. While the public enjoyed the new arena, the rulers still needed a place to live. They returned to the high green slopes where the first settlers had built their huts. Successive leaders kept expanding their luxurious private homes on this same hill. They added elegant courtyards, marble columns, and quiet gardens. Eventually, the private homes grew so large they covered the entire crest of the hill. The whole area became one massive, connected imperial complex. The name of this specific hill became forever linked to royal wealth. In fact, the word we use today for a grand royal home comes directly from this hill's name. The sprawling villas look down over the busy streets below. The high walls caught the warm sunset light beautifully. It was a quiet, breezy escape from the noise of the valley. the rulers slept high above the world they controlled. Down in the valleys, the population was growing too fast. The local springs and wells could no longer provide enough fresh water. The city's size was strictly capped by what the earth could naturally give. To break this limit, engineers looked to the distant mountains. They built towering, multi-tiered stone channels that stretched across the plains. These elevated paths carried cold, clean water for miles through the air. The water flowed gently in open channels, driven only by gravity. This brilliant invention allowed the city to explode into a massive metropolis. Millions of gallons poured into public fountains and quiet baths every day. The sound of splashing water became the constant background music of the streets. The tall stone arches looked like giants marching across the green grass. The water brought life, health, and endless growth to the crowded blocks. The city drank from the mountains and thrived. With 1 million mouths to feed, the city relied heavily on the sea. But the old natural harbor at the river's mouth was failing. The slow water was dropping too much sand and mud. The docks were choking with silt, threatening the entire economy. The engineers responded with a massive, bold plan. They moved slightly north and dug an entirely new artificial harbor. They carved a vast, perfectly hexagonal basin right into the coastline. This geometric lake provided safe, deep water for hundreds of wooden merchant ships. Massive stone warehouses lined the neat, straight edges of the water. The calm blue surface reflected the sky perfectly. This new gateway saved the city from slow starvation. It was a triumph of human will over natural decay. The ships could rest safely after their long journeys across the sea. The water lapped quietly against the new stone walls. Building safe harbors required a special kind of magic. The engineers discovered a local volcanic ash that changed everything. When they mixed this dusty ash with lime, it created a powerful new material. This special concrete could actually cure and harden underwater. It allowed builders to pour solid foundations directly into the ocean. They built massive permanent piers and breakwaters that pushed back the waves. The world's coastlines were no longer fixed by nature. The builders could shape the edge of the sea however they wanted. The heavy concrete blocks stood firm against the endless crashing water. The ocean could not wash these new stone walls away. This invention made sea travel safer and more reliable than ever before. The grey concrete looked rough, but it held the empire together. The quiet strength of the ash kept the violent storms at bay. The sea finally had a boundary it could not cross. The ships brought endless supplies of olive oil to the hungry city. The oil arrived in large, curved clay jars that could not be easily washed. Millions of these empty jars piled up, creating a massive waste problem. The city could not reuse them, so workers found a clever solution. They systematically broke the clay pots into smaller, flat pieces. They stacked these broken shards in neat, careful layers. Over the years, they built a massive, man-made mountain of trash. This terraced hill still stands today, glowing warmly in the late afternoon sun. It is a quiet monument to the city's incredible appetite. The dry clay pieces crunch softly underfoot if you walk on them. The hill is a perfect record of daily life and simple needs. It shows how even garbage can become a permanent part of the landscape. The mountain of clay rests peacefully at the edge of town. To sell all these imported goods, the city needed more market space. But the center of town was completely blocked by a steep, rocky ridge. A bold emperor ordered his engineers to physically remove the obstacle. Workers chiseled away the entire hillside, cutting deep into the raw earth. They sheared off the rock to create a massive, flat clearing. They built elegant brick market stalls right into the newly carved cliff face. The emperor also built a famous, towering column in the center. The height of this carved pillar was not an accident. It was specifically designed to show exactly how much earth had been removed. The tall stone needle pointed to where the top of the hill used to be. It was a quiet boast about moving mountains. The afternoon sun warmed the new brick walls perfectly. The city simply erased the geography it did not like. The builders also knew how to use light to shape a mood. They built a grand, circular temple with a massive domed roof. They deliberately placed the front doors facing north. This careful choice was a brilliant piece of urban theater. It ensured that the deep porch and heavy bronze doors were always in shadow. When you walked out of the bright street, your eyes had to adjust to the dark. Then, you stepped inside the massive round room. A sudden brilliant beam of light poured down from a single hole in the ceiling. The contrast made the light feel like a sudden, divine revelation. The sun slowly tracked across the curved walls as the day passed. The quiet room felt completely separate from the busy city outside. The shadows and light danced together in perfect silence. The building was designed to make you stop and simply look up. As the city grew, the land outside the walls became very expensive. The working classes could no longer afford traditional graves in the open air. This economic pressure forced them to look downward for a solution. They began digging deep into the soft, porous volcanic rock beneath the fields. They carved vast, quiet networks of subterranean tunnels. The narrow, dark halls were lined with simple, rectangular resting places. These underground paths stretched for miles in the cool, silent earth. The air down there was always still and smelled of damp soil. A single flickering oil lamp provided the only light in the deep shadows. It was a peaceful, hidden city for those who had passed on. The soft rock was easy to cut, but strong enough to hold its shape. The tunnels offered a quiet dignity away from the noise above. The earth gently held the memories of the ordinary people. For centuries the city felt invincible, and left its borders open. But a deep psychological shift happened when new threats appeared on the horizon. The leaders realized they could no longer trust their distant armies to keep them safe. They quickly built a massive, continuous ring of red brick walls. This towering defense physically constricted the city's sprawling growth. It locked the streets into an exact urban footprint for the next 1,500 years. The tall square guard towers watched over the quiet suburbs. Workers laid the final bricks by the soft light of oil lamps. The wall was a heavy blanket of security, but also a sign of fear. The city traded its endless expansion for a safe, defined edge. The red bricks glowed warmly in the evening sun. The wall stood as a quiet promise to protect what was inside. The open city finally closed its doors. The slow end of this grand era did not start with a violent attack. It began quietly, with a simple signature on a piece of paper. A new ruler decided to move the capital far away to the east. When he left, the wealthy elite and the politicians quickly followed him. The massive temples and grand baths were left behind. The incredible infrastructure now had to be maintained by a rapidly shrinking population. The grand marble squares began to feel slightly too empty. The long afternoon shadows stretched across quiet, abandoned steps. The city did not fall. It simply faded as the people drifted away. The water still flowed in the fountains, but fewer hands reached out to catch it. The wind blew softly through the empty arches. The great stone metropolis slowly went to sleep. The streets rested, waiting patiently for the next chapter to begin. The great amphitheater stands quiet in the evening light. If you look closely at the outer stone walls, you will see thousands of deep holes. They look like the scars of a terrible battle. But no weapons made these marks. They are the slow work of medieval scavengers. Long after the games ended, people came here with chisels. They spent days cutting into the massive blocks of travertine. They were not looking for stone. They wanted the hidden iron and bronze clamps that held the walls together. The ancient builders poured molten lead over these metal ties to lock the stones in place. It was a brilliant piece of engineering, but it made the building a rich mine for later generations. They took the metal to forge new tools and weapons. The great arena slowly gave up its bones. Now, Only the empty sockets remain. They catch the shadows as the sun goes down. Beneath that scarred arena floor lies a completely different world. The hypogeum is a dark maze of brick corridors on 2 levels. It was the hidden backstage of the ancient games. Down here the air was thick with dust, and the smell of wild animals. The space was packed with a complex system of wooden elevators. Heavy ropes and massive pulleys hung from the low ceilings. Teams of workers turned heavy wooden wheels in the dim light. They lifted cages full of lions and bears up to the surface. Trapdoors would suddenly fall open in the sand above. To the crowd it looked like magic. The beasts seemed to step right out of thin air, but the magic relied on pure muscle and sweat in the dark. Today, the wooden platforms are gone. The sun shines directly into the brick labyrinth. It is strange to see this secret underworld exposed to the bright sky. Just a short walk away, another secret passage hides under the earth. A long vaulted tunnel connects the imperial palaces on the Palatine Hill to the Circus Maximus. The walls down here were once covered in elegant plaster reliefs. Small bronze lamps hung from the ceiling to light the way. The floor was paved with smooth mosaics. This quiet corridor served a very specific purpose. It let the emperor walk directly to his private box at the great chariot track. He could appear suddenly before a roaring crowd of 100,000 people. But he never had to step foot on a dirty public street. He moved like a ghost beneath the city. The air in the tunnel is always cool and perfectly still. It feels miles away from the noise of the city above. You can almost hear the soft echo of leather sandals on the stone floor. Up on the hill itself, the palace grounds hold their own quiet secrets. The emperors built massive sunken gardens entirely below the normal ground level. These hidden courtyards were shaped like long athletic tracks. High brick walls wrapped around them, blocking out the wind and noise. Marble columns cast long, cool shadows across the grass. In the brutal heat of a Roman summer, these deep gardens were a perfect retreat. The thick earth naturally insulated the space. It created a gentle microclimate that stayed cool all day long. Still pools of water reflected the blue sky far above. Lush green plants grew quietly in the shade. It was a private world, dug into the hill. The rulers of the empire could walk here in total peace. Even today, when you step down into the ruins, the temperature drops. The air feels soft, and the modern city simply fades away. Down in the flat center of the city, another ancient track left a different kind of mark. The Stadium of Domitian was a massive public arena for foot races. Over the centuries, the grandstands slowly fell apart. dirt and mud buried the flat racing surface. But the city never really forgot the shape of the building. Later generations simply built their new houses directly on top of the ruined stone seats. They followed the exact curve of the ancient grandstands. Today, this space is a famous public square. The open plaza in the middle is the exact size of the old dirt track. The tall buildings around the edge trace the exact line of the ancient crowds. The footprint of the racetrack is frozen in the modern streets. You can walk the long curve of the northern end. You are walking right where thousands of people once cheered for fast runners. A few streets away, the first permanent theatre in Rome shaped the land itself. The Theatre of Pompey was a colossal structure of curved stone. It had tiered seating for thousands and a towering stage. When the empire fell, the massive building slowly collapsed. The ruins were so huge that they formed an artificial hill in the middle of the flat plain. The curved foundation walls were incredibly thick and strong. Medieval builders did not tear them down. Instead, they used them as ready-made foundations for their own homes. They built right onto the curved stone. If you walk through this neighborhood today, the streets bend in a gentle half-circle. The modern apartments trace the exact seating chart of the ancient theater. The old building is gone, but its ghost still pushes the streets around. The city simply folded the massive ruins into its own living shape. Some ancient buildings survived because their secrets were hidden in the roof. The Great Dome of the Pantheon is a miracle of concrete. It has stood perfectly intact for nearly 2,000 years. The secret to its survival is a hidden gradient in the heavy stone. At the bottom of the dome, the concrete is mixed with thick, heavy travertine. This gives the base massive strength. But as the curved roof rises toward the open circle at the top, the recipe changes. The builders slowly swapped the heavy stone for light, airy pumice. This porous volcanic rock weighs almost nothing. By the time the dome reaches the top, the concrete is incredibly light. This quiet shift in materials reduces the crushing weight of the roof. It keeps the massive ceiling from falling in on itself. The genius of the building is completely invisible. It is baked right into the stone. The walls of that same round temple hide another brilliant trick. The brick cylinder that holds up the dome looks perfectly solid from the inside. But hidden deep within the masonry are massive relieving arches. These structural curves are built right into the flat brickwork. You can only see them from the outside, where the warm sun hits the old clay. They do a very specific job. They quietly catch the immense weight of the concrete roof. Then they push that heavy load away from the empty spaces of the windows and doors. They drive the force down into the thickest, most solid parts of the wall. The arches act like hidden shoulders, carrying the burden of the sky. They have held that weight without a single complaint for centuries. The building feels light and open inside, because the heavy lifting happens in the dark center of the walls. The floors of the elite palaces told their own quiet stories of power. In the grand halls, you can still see patches of a technique called opus sectile. Builders cut thin pieces of colored marble into perfect geometric shapes. They fit them together like a tight puzzle to make bright, shining floors. But the colors were not just for decoration. They were a map of conquest. The deep yellow stone came from the deserts of Numidia. The rich purple rock was dragged from the mountains of Egypt. The bright green marble was shipped across the sea from Greece. Every step an emperor took was a walk across his vast empire. The floor physically proved how far his armies could reach. The stones were polished to a high shine. They caught the late afternoon light spilling through the tall doors. The wealth of the whole world was laid flat beneath their feet. Not all palaces were meant to be remembered. Emperor Nero built a massive, sprawling estate called the Golden House. It had opulent rooms, covered in delicate, colorful frescoes. But after he died, the new rulers wanted to erase his memory completely. They did not tear the beautiful palace down. Instead, they simply buried it. Workers stripped away the expensive marble floors and walls. Then they filled the vaulted rooms to the ceiling with dark earth and broken rubble. They packed the dirt tight to make a solid new ground level. Later emperors built massive public baths right on top of the buried rooms. For centuries, the beautiful painted ceilings sat in total darkness under the earth. The palace became a forgotten basement. When artists finally dug down into the ruins hundreds of years later, they thought they had found painted caves. The buried rooms had waited patiently in the dark. Water was the true lifeblood of the ancient capital. Most people picture tall stone arches marching across the green plains. But the Aqua is different. It is the only ancient aqueduct that never stopped flowing. It survived the long fall of the empire because it was mostly hidden. Engineers built this water line almost entirely underground. It runs through dark, quiet stone tunnels deep beneath the earth. Clear, cold water flows smoothly along the curved brick floor. When invading armies came to attack the city, they smashed the visible water lines. They broke the tall arches to make the city go thirsty. But they could not find the buried tunnel. The cold water kept running in the dark. It still runs today, feeding the famous fountains in the center of town. You can stand on a busy street and never know, a river is flowing right beneath your shoes. The city went to great lengths to protect those buried pipes. The underground water lines were guarded by a hidden legal zone. Engineers placed small stone markers called sipi every few hundred feet along the route. These carved pillars stood alone in the quiet, grassy fields outside the walls. They marked a strict, empty corridor over the buried water. Inside this invisible boundary, the law was absolute. It was illegal to build a house or plow a farm. You could not even plant a tree near the markers. The city knew that deep roots would slowly crack the stone pipes and steal the water. The markers kept the land perfectly clear. Even today you can sometimes spot a subtle mound in the earth between the old stones. It traces the long, gentle slope of the hidden water. The ancient law still shapes the quiet fields at the edge of town. Sometimes the water lines were forced to serve a darker purpose. The Aqua Claudia was a graceful double arch of bright stone. It carried fresh water high over the roads. But in the 3rd century, the city panicked. New armies were marching toward the gates, and the old defenses were weak. The engineers did not have time to quarry new stone for a wall. Instead, they simply swallowed existing buildings into their new barricade. They filled the elegant arches of the aqueduct with rough brick and heavy rubble. They transformed the beautiful water bridge into a massive, heavy city gate. The graceful curves were choked with defensive walls. The water kept flowing in the pipe high above, but the arches became a fortress. You can still see the rough bricks stuffed into the smooth stone. It is a permanent scar of a city bracing for the end. Before the water reached the people, it had to be cleaned and stored. To supply the massive public baths, engineers built hidden, cavernous cisterns. The set sail is a vast underground reservoir with high brick vaults. It is split into many interconnected chambers. The space is dark and echoing, filled halfway with perfectly still water. The builders designed the interior walls with gentle curves. These curved surfaces did a very important job. They gently slowed the fast flow of the incoming water. As the water calmed down, the heavy dirt and sand slowly sank to the bottom. The sediment settled quietly in the dark. By the time the water reached the final chamber, it was perfectly clear and clean. It was ready for the wealthy bathers waiting in the bright rooms above. The massive underground lake did its quiet work in total darkness, day after day. The luxurious warmth of those public baths relied on a hidden, hellish underworld. Beneath the beautiful mosaic floors was a dark, cramped crawlspace, called a hypocaust. The low ceiling was supported by hundreds of small, square brick pillars. Down here, the air was thick with smoke and suffocating heat. Slaves worked in the dim light to keep massive wood fires roaring all day long. The intense heat flowed between the brick pillars and warmed the stone floors above. It rose through hollow clay pipes hidden in the walls. The wealthy citizens upstairs walked barefoot on warm tiles in bright, airy rooms. They never saw the soot-covered workers feeding the flames just a few feet below their toes. The beauty of the baths required this dark, endless labor. The fires are gone now, but the brick pillars still stand in the quiet shadows under the ruined floors. Feeding those massive fires required a staggering amount of fuel. The engineers built a hidden, subterranean road network just to handle the wood. Wide, vaulted brick tunnels ran deep beneath the bath complex. These dark roads were large enough for heavy wooden carts pulled by mules. Workers drove thousands of tons of timber through the damp corridors every single day. They delivered the wood directly to the underground furnaces. The entire industrial operation happened completely out of sight. The wealthy bathers strolling through the gardens above never heard the braying mules. They never saw the heavy carts or the tired drivers. The tunnels kept the dirty work of the city hidden in the dark. Today you can walk down into these wide, empty corridors. The air is cool and smells of damp earth. The walls still hold the faint black stains of ancient torchlight. The wastewater from the baths was put to very clever use. It flowed directly into the public latrines, which were a marvel of hidden engineering. These quiet, elegant rooms were lined with long marble benches. The seats featured evenly spaced keyhole openings. Beneath the smooth stone ran a deep, narrow trench. A continuous, fast-flowing channel of water rushed through this trench day and night. It was the used water diverted from the great bathhouses next door. This steady stream automatically flushed the facility 24 hours a day. It carried the waste out to the main sewers, and down to the river. The room was bright, clean, and surprisingly social. Soft, natural light fell from high windows onto the marble floors. The sound of rushing water echoed gently off the walls. It was a simple, brilliant system that kept the dense city clean without a single moving part. The city streets hid their own complex utility grid. Just under the stone sidewalks ran a network of thick, grey lead pipes called fistulae. They carried fresh drinking water directly to private homes and public fountains. The city wanted to make sure no one was stealing from the public supply. So, they stamped the heavy pipes with raised Latin letters. The stamps showed the exact name of the homeowner who paid for the water line. Water inspectors could dig a shallow trench and check the lead joints. If they found an illegal pipe tapping into the main line, they knew exactly who to blame. The names cast in lead made it impossible to hide. Sometimes, clear water would leak slightly from a loose joint, pooling between the paving stones. The ancient grid worked much like a modern city. It was just buried a few inches below the dust. But that fresh water rarely reached the people living high above the street. Most citizens lived in towering multi-story apartment blocks called insulae. These tall brick buildings hid a grim reality behind their narrow windows. They had absolutely no plumbing above the ground floor. The higher you lived in the building, the cheaper your rent was. But the cheap rent came with a heavy physical cost. Every single drop of water for drinking, cooking and washing had to be carried up by hand. Tired residents hauled heavy clay jugs up steep, dark, wooden stairs. They made the exhausting trip multiple times a day. A fire on the upper floors was a constant, terrifying threat. There was simply no water up there to put it out. The wealthy lived on the bottom floors, close to the heavy lead pipes. The poor lived near the roof, always thirsty and always climbing. The daily bread of the city was also made in the dark. Space was incredibly tight in the crowded neighborhoods. So massive industrial bakeries were built deep underground. These subterranean factories were dusty and dimly lit by small oil lamps. Flour dust hung thick in the stale air. The bakers used massive, hourglass-shaped mills carved from rough volcanic stone. To turn these heavy rocks they used blindfolded donkeys. The animals walked in endless, slow circles, hour after hour. The blindfolds kept them from getting dizzy in the cramped spinning room. The heavy stones ground the grain into fine flour to feed the massive population above. It was a loud, hot, and exhausting place. The smell of warm yeast and crushed grain filled the dark basement. The city ate millions of loaves of bread every year. Most of it started in these hidden turning rooms beneath the streets. All that grain had to be stored safely before it could be milled. The city built massive stone warehouses called harria near the river. These huge buildings held the food supply for 1 million people. They had a hidden defense against rot and hungry rats. The builders did not put the floors directly on the dirt. Instead, they built a system of raised, hollow brick pillars. They laid the heavy stone floors on top of these short supports. This clever design allowed cool air to circulate freely underneath the massive grain bins. The constant breeze kept the terracotta storage jars perfectly dry. It stopped mold from ruining the wheat during the wet winter months. It also made it nearly impossible for pests to burrow up into the food. Shafts of light fell from high windows onto the dry stone. The food of the empire rested safely on a cushion of air. The damp basements of ordinary apartment blocks hid more than just bakeries. They were also home to secret, windowless temples dedicated to a mystery cult. These hidden rooms were called mithraeums. They were designed to look and feel like deep, natural caves. The air inside was thick with heavy incense smoke. The only light came from the dim, flickering glow of small oil lamps. Low stone benches ran along the painted walls. Initiates of the cult would lie on these benches and share ritual meals in near-total darkness. At the far end of the room stood a carved stone altar. It always showed a god slaying a wild bull. The cult was incredibly popular with soldiers and merchants, but they kept their meetings completely hidden from the busy streets outside. You could walk past the building every day, and never know a secret religion was gathering right under your feet. Even in death, the working class found themselves in crowded underground spaces. Beneath the quiet outskirts of the city lay the columbaria. These were subterranean tombs designed for slaves and freedmen who could not afford grand monuments. They were built like inverted apartment buildings, dug deep into the soft earth. The painted walls were completely covered in neat rows of small, arched niches. They looked exactly like the pigeonholes in a birdhouse. Each tiny space held a simple clay urn filled with ashes. A small plaque named the person resting inside. The rooms were beautifully decorated with bright frescoes and delicate stucco. Families would climb down the steep stairs to leave small offerings of wine or flowers. The warm glow of a single lamp lit the quiet faces of the dead. It was a peaceful, shared resting place, hidden safely below the grass of the busy world above. The city we see today sits high above all these ancient secrets. The original street level of Rome is buried up to 30 feet below the modern pavement. This massive shift did not happen overnight. It was the slow work of centuries. The Tiber River flooded constantly, leaving thick layers of heavy mud across the valleys. When old buildings fell into ruin, people rarely cleared the heavy stone away. They simply knocked the broken walls flat and built new houses directly on top of the crushed brick. Dirt and dust blew through the empty streets, slowly raising the floor of the city inch by inch. The ancient temples were swallowed up to their knees. Today, when you look down into the excavated squares, you are looking into a deep canyon of time. The modern city floats on a thick ocean of buried history, resting quietly on the roofs of the past. Some pieces of the ancient city survived by simply moving across town. The Senate House, known as the Curia Julia, still stands at the edge of the old plaza. It is an imposing, plain brick building, but its massive, heavy bronze doors are missing. For centuries, those green patina doors sealed the fate of the entire empire. Senators walked through them to declare wars and crown kings. In the 17th century, a pope quietly removed the ancient bronze. He had the heavy doors carried across the city and installed on a grand new church. They fit perfectly in their new stone frame. The doors that once guarded the most powerful room in the ancient world are still working today. They swing open every Sunday morning to let people in for Mass. The empire is long gone, but its heavy bronze hinges still turn smoothly in the quiet morning light. Before the city truly wakes, the sky holds the first word. You can find the augurs standing high on the Capitoline Hill in the pale dawn light. These priests wait in absolute silence. They watch the horizon to read the flight paths of birds. A hawk circling to the left, or a raven darting right, is not just a random event. To them, it reveals the clear will of Jupiter. No major political choice is made without this quiet pause. The entire empire waits on the morning breeze. It is a moment of deep trust in the natural world. The priests wear hooded robes to block out distractions. They hold curved wooden staffs to map out sections of the sky. You can almost feel the chill in the air as they stand perfectly still. The city below them is just starting to stir. But up here, time moves only with the slow glide of wings. Down in the winding streets, a different morning ritual begins. The daily salutatio brings hundreds of poorer citizens out into the cold. They gather quietly outside the heavy wooden doors of wealthy patrons. Men in simple woolen tunics stand shoulder to shoulder in the dim light. You can see their breath rising in the crisp air. They are waiting for their daily allowance of food or a few coins. In exchange, they offer their political loyalty and public support. It is a strict social contract, played out on the cobblestones. The line moves slowly, once the grand doors finally swing open. There is no rushing or loud shouting here. Everyone knows their place in the quiet rhythm of the morning. The wealthy host greets them one by one in his grand hall. This slow exchange of favors binds the vast population together. It is the quiet glue that keeps the social order intact. At the very center of the forum, a single flame burns without pause. The Vestal Virgins tend this sacred fire day and night. Their work follows a terrifying but simple rhythm. They must never let the hearth go dark. People believe the entire empire will fall if the fire dies. This makes their quiet task the most vital job in the world. The circular temple offers a dark and intimate space. A priestess in white robes steps forward to add a piece of wood. The warm glow lights up her calm face. She moves with slow and deliberate grace. There is no rush in her actions. The steady crackle of the fire is the only sound in the room. It is a deeply comforting noise for anyone walking past outside. As long as that light flickers, the city feels safe. The endless tending of the flame anchors the rushing world around it. The urban pace shifts entirely every 8th day. This marks the Nundinai, the traditional market day. The quiet rhythms of the countryside flood into the busy squares. Farmers travel from miles away to sell their goods. They bring fresh vegetables, woven baskets, and live poultry. You can smell the damp earth on their rough wool cloaks. The dusty market near the river fills with wooden stalls. City dwellers mix freely with the rural visitors. They trade coins for fresh produce and share news from the outer roads. The morning sunlight catches the dust kicked up by the crowds. It is a bustling scene, but it moves with a steady, practiced flow. People negotiate prices in low, even tones. The sharp scent of wild herbs cuts through the city air. By late afternoon, the farmers pack up their empty carts. The square slowly returns to its normal, quiet state until the next week. Feeding this massive population requires a highly organized monthly routine. The distribution of free grain is a lifeline for the poor. Citizens gather at the grand columns of the porticus minutia. They must prove their right to claim a vital ration of wheat. Each person holds a small token called a tessera. These little squares are made of worn wood or heavy lead. You can see the smooth edges rubbed flat by calloused thumbs. The line shuffles forward under the bright morning sun. Clerks check each token with practiced speed. Workers pour heavy sacks of grain into waiting baskets. The sound of dry wheat rushing into clay pots fills the air. It is a massive logistical feat, yet it feels deeply personal. A family's survival depends on that tiny piece of lead. The steady flow of grain keeps the streets calm. It is a quiet promise kept by the state each month. The scent of baking bread drifts from small shops on nearly every corner. Each rustic round loaf carries a unique mark of its maker. Before the dough goes into the hot brick oven, it gets stamped. Bakers use a carved wooden seal to press Latin letters into the crust. This daily rhythm prevents theft and guarantees the quality of the food. Even a badly burnt loaf can be traced right back to its source. You can see the raised letters dusted with white flour on the wooden tables. The warm light from the open oven spills out onto the street. Bakers work with a steady, kneading motion that never seems to stop. They pull hot loaves from the fire with long wooden paddles. The crust crackles softly as it cools in the morning air. It is a simple, honest trade. The stamped bread serves as a daily signature of hard work. The grand public halls echo with a very specific, quiet sound. It is the endless scratching of metal on wax. Professional scribes sit on stone benches to record the daily business. Real paper is far too expensive for rough drafts or quick notes. Instead, people use wooden tablets coated in a layer of dark beeswax. Writers use a sharp bronze stylus to carve letters into the soft surface. The flat end of the tool can easily smooth over any mistakes. You can watch them work with rapid, practiced strokes. Faint Latin words appear and disappear in the black wax all day long. The natural daylight filters through the high windows of the basilica. It catches the slight sheen of the wax boards. This is how the empire tracks its debts, laws and letters. The soft scraping noise blends into a soothing background hum. It is the sound of a vast bureaucracy thinking out loud. Justice in the law courts is strictly measured by falling water. Lawyers do not have endless hours to make their case. They are timed by a large bronze device called a clepsydra. This ornate water clock rests on a marble table in the echoing hall. Water slowly drips from a top vessel into a lower bowl. The steady plink of the drops creates a tense, quiet rhythm. When the water finally runs out, the speaker must stop immediately. This forces a very rapid and sharp style of debate. You can see the lawyers glancing nervously at the sinking water level. The crowd leans in to catch every rushed word. The clock cares nothing for wealth or status. It only measures the cold, even flow of time. Once the bottom bowl is full, the argument is over. The dripping water is a constant reminder that time is always slipping away. When the official courts fail, people seek justice in darker places. They do not file an appeal, they go to a quiet well. This secret ritual involves small, folded sheets of dark lead. A person scratches a bitter curse onto the metal surface. These are called deficciones, and they carry deep grudges. The angry citizen folds the lead tightly to hide the words. Then, they drop it into a deep well or a fresh grave. The heavy metal sinks quickly into the cold, shallow water. They believe this delivers the message directly to the gods of the underworld. It is a private, silent act of revenge. You can imagine the faint splash echoing up from the dark stones. A faint shaft of light barely reaches the bottom of the well. The lead squares rest there for centuries in the damp chill. They are quiet monuments to everyday anger and broken hearts. The outer edges of the city carry a very distinct and heavy scent. It is the sharp, pungent smell of fermenting fish. This odor comes from the production of garum. It is a rich fish sauce used on almost every meal. Workers fill massive terracotta vats with fish and salt. They leave these open containers out in the hot sun for months. The dark liquid slowly ferments into a highly prized sauce. The stench is so powerful that the factories are legally banished to the outskirts. You can see workers stirring the deep vats with long wooden poles. The dusty courtyards bake in the bright afternoon heat. Despite the smell, this sauce is the absolute heart of their cuisine. It adds a deep, savory flavor to the simplest bowls of lentils. The slow bubbling of the vats marks the passage of the seasons. It is a messy process that creates pure culinary gold. Most people living in crowded apartments do not have their own kitchens. They fear the very real danger of indoor fires. Instead, they buy their meals at small street-side shops. These ancient fast food counters open directly onto the busy sidewalks. They feature L-shaped masonry bars decorated with bright, colorful frescoes. Large terracotta jars are built right into the stone counters. These deep pots hold hot wine, thick stews and warm lentils. Steam rises from the jars into the cool evening air. You can smell the rich broth and roasted meats from a block away. Customers lean against the counter to eat and chat. Small oil lamps cast a warm, flickering glow over the painted walls. The shopkeeper ladles out portions with a practiced, easy rhythm. It is a cozy, communal way to share a meal. The street itself becomes a shared dining room for the working class. The calendar is heavily shaped by a deep need for rest and spectacle. At its peak, the year includes over 130 days of holidays. These public festivals are known as the Ludi. During these times, all shops and businesses are legally required to close. The entire population is forced into a state of mandatory leisure. The massive chariot racing track sits quietly in the early morning mist. Its towering grandstands are completely empty and still. Soon, they will hold hundreds of thousands of cheering fans. But for now, the long stretch of sand is peaceful. The soft dawn light catches the dust hanging in the air. These frequent breaks keep the dense, chaotic streets from boiling over. The games provide a shared focus for everyone from senators to slaves. The city breathes out during these long stretches of rest. It is a rhythm of intense work, followed by total release. When the games begin, the seating charts form a strict map of society. The massive amphitheater divides the crowd by rigid social class. Wealthy senators sit comfortably on smooth marble benches at the very bottom. They have the best views of the distant sand arena below. But the poorest citizens face a much harder climb. Women and slaves must walk up to the dizzying, steep wooden bleachers. These seats sit at the very top edge of the towering walls. Up there the crowd bakes in the bright midday sun. The air is thin, and the view is incredibly far away. Yet, they still come to share in the grand spectacle. Looking down from that height makes the arena look like a small toy. The stone rows below form perfect, sweeping curves. Every person knows exactly where they belong in this vast bowl. The architecture itself enforces the rules of the empire. The daily trip to the public baths offers a much gentler routine. This massive complex follows a very strict thermal rhythm. Bathers start their journey in the mildly warmed rooms to slowly relax. Then, they move into the sweltering heat to sweat out the day's dirt. Finally, they plunge into the freezing waters of the cold pools. This sudden chill closes their pores and wakes up their senses. People move through the grand vaulted halls like a slow communal tide. Soft sunlight filters down through the high arched windows. It reflects beautifully off the calm, clear pools of water. Tall marble columns rise up into the shadowy ceilings. The echoing sounds of splashing water and quiet talk fill the air. There is no rush here. The heat demands a slow pace. It is a place to wash away the dust of the crowded streets. The baths wash the whole society clean every afternoon. The actual process of getting clean looks very different than you might expect. These bathers do not use any kind of soap. Instead, they rely on a simple glass flask of cheap olive oil. They rub the thick oil deeply into their skin. Then, a helper uses a curved bronze tool called a strigil. They scrape the metal blade firmly across the body. This pulls away the oil, sweat and dirt in long, satisfying strokes. You can see the dull shine of the bronze resting on a stone bench. The tool sits right next to a pool of clear, still water. The scraping sound is soft and rhythmic. It leaves the skin feeling incredibly smooth and refreshed. The warm, marble-lined room smells faintly of the earthy oil. This daily scraping is a deeply ingrained habit. It is a quiet, tactile moment of care in a very public space. As the sun begins to set, a heavy finality settles over the walls. The massive wooden doors of the city gate swing shut. Guards lock the heavy iron bolts tight for the night. This daily action turns the sprawling capital into a sealed fortress. Anyone arriving too late must wait outside until morning. Late travelers find rest at small, quiet inns just beyond the ancient walls. You can see warm light glowing from the windows of these modest taverns. The massive stone gate looms darkly against the fading evening sky. The air grows calm as the daytime traffic finally stops. Inside the walls, the mood shifts from business to private life. Outside, the travelers wait patiently for the dawn to open the doors again. The locked gates create a hard boundary between the wild roads and the safe streets. It is a comforting nightly ritual for those sleeping inside. The main evening meal is a decidedly horizontal affair. Wealthy families do not sit upright at standard dining tables. Instead, they recline comfortably on their left elbows. They rest on 3 large cushioned couches, arranged in a wide U-shape. This elegant dining room is called a triclinium. The walls are painted with rich, detailed frescoes of gardens and myths. A low central table holds silver platters laden with fresh fruit and roasted meats. Diners eat slowly with their fingers, wiping their hands on soft cloths. Warm oil lamps cast a gentle flickering light across the room. The soft glow highlights the deep reds and yellows of the painted walls. Slaves quietly pour spiced wine into shallow clay cups. The reclining posture forces a very relaxed, unhurried pace. Conversations drift lazily over the low table. It is a space designed entirely for comfort and slow, deliberate indulgence. Out in the darker streets, neighborhood identity centers around small corners. Simple brick shrines are built right into the intersections of buildings. These are dedicated to the local guardian spirits of the block. Once a year, the entire neighborhood stops working to honor them. They decorate the small niches with fresh garlands of green leaves. Tiny, bright flowers are woven into the vines. A small oil lamp burns quietly inside the dark brick hollow. The neighbors share a communal feast right there on the cobblestones. It is a rare moment of unity for the crowded apartment blocks. The quiet evening light softens the rough edges of the stone walls. You can hear the low murmur of friends sharing food and wine. These tiny shrines anchor the sprawling maze of alleys. They remind people that they belong to a specific, protected little corner of the world. When the streets finally empty, a different kind of work begins. Political campaigns are fought quietly in the dark with brushes and paint. Professional sign painters roam the silent alleys by moonlight. They paint bold red and black letters directly onto the houses. These endorsements cover the smooth, whitewashed exterior walls. The painters work quickly, standing on wooden ladders or empty crates. A wooden bucket of thick paint rests on the dark cobblestones below. This turns the everyday architecture into a massive, temporary ballot box. You can see the fresh, wet letters gleaming slightly in the pale light. By morning, the entire block will wake up to new slogans. It is a stealthy, rhythmic war of words fought while the voters sleep. The painters slip away before the sun rises. They leave behind bright red promises that will slowly fade in the summer sun. The darkness does not actually bring silence to the narrow alleys. A strict law bans heavy wooden carts from moving during the day. This rule was made to reduce the crushing daytime congestion. Because of this, the rhythm of the streets completely inverts at sunset. The nights are incredibly loud and chaotic. Iron-rimmed wheels clatter endlessly over the uneven stone blocks. Mules pull heavy loads of stone, timber, and wine through the dark. The noise echoes sharply off the tall apartment buildings. A driver holds a single flickering torch that casts long, wild shadows. The light dances across the brick walls as the cart rumbles past. People try to sleep while the heavy deliveries shake their floors. It is a restless, grinding energy that keeps the economy moving. The capital rebuilds and restocks itself entirely in the dark. The true heavy lifting happens when no one can see it. Growing up in these loud streets involves a very quiet, domestic milestone. Coming of age for a young boy is marked by a simple act. He takes off the protective amulet he has worn since infancy. This small gold charm on a leather cord is called a bulla. He carries it to the beautifully painted wooden shrine inside his house. He gently places the warm gold onto the small family altar. It rests next to tiny bronze statues of the household gods. A small oil lamp casts a warm, steady glow over the metal. This silent dedication means he is officially stepping into manhood. There is no grand public ceremony or loud cheering. It is just a private moment between a boy and his family's past. The amulet will stay there, gathering dust in the quiet shadows. It is a tender way to leave childhood behind. Marriages, on the other hand, end with a strange and noisy tradition. The ceremony finishes as dusk settles over the cobblestone streets. A lively procession escorts the new bride toward her husband's home. Friends and family carry bright torches that cast warm, flickering light. As they walk, the groom throws handfuls of whole walnuts into the crowd. The hard shells clatter loudly against the dark stones. Children scramble and laugh as they try to catch the flying treats. Throwing the nuts symbolizes the groom abandoning his childhood toys. It also represents a hopeful wish for future fertility and wealth. You can see the scattered walnuts resting in the grooves of the street. The blurred figures of the wedding party slowly move away into the night. Their joyful songs fade down the winding alley. It is a chaotic, happy mess left behind on the quiet stones. The end of life brings an eerie, theatrical parade to the main roads. Aristocratic funerals are grand spectacles, designed to show off deep roots. Families hire actors to wear incredibly lifelike wax masks of their ancestors. These performers dress in formal togas and walk slowly in the procession. It looks as if the entire lineage has returned from the dead. They march together to escort the newly deceased to the afterlife. The solemn group moves down the stone-paved avenue in the twilight. They carry smoking torches that cast strange shadows on the wax faces. The masks are slightly unsettling in their perfect frozen details. It is a powerful display of history and unbroken bloodlines. The past literally walks alongside the present for one evening. The quiet shuffling of their leather sandals echoes off the monuments. It is a haunting, beautiful way to say a final goodbye. These wealthy processions are also incredibly loud, but not by accident. Families actually hire professional women to follow the body and weep. These paid mourners wear dark, torn clothes covered in pale dust. They wail loudly, tear at their garments, and scratch their own faces. This dramatic display artificially inflates the perceived tragedy of the death. The more noise they make, the more important the dead person seems. They stand outside an ornate stone tomb, along a dusty road. Their hands are raised high in practiced, dramatic gestures of grief. In the late afternoon sun, the scene looks like a tragic play. Once the ceremony ends, the women wipe their faces and quietly go home. It is a strange job, turning raw sorrow into a paid performance. Yet it provides a necessary release for the real grief hidden underneath. The loud cries drift away over the silent stone graves. At the darkest point of the year, the strict rules finally break. The December festival of Saturnalia turns the entire social order upside down. For one chaotic week, the rigid lines of class are completely ignored. Masters actually serve rich dinners to their own slaves. The slaves recline comfortably on the elegant dining couches, laughing and eating. Gambling, normally a hidden vice, is suddenly legalized out in the open streets. The city gives itself over to a joyful, candle-lit blur of feasting. Dozens of oil lamps light up the relaxed, festive dining rooms. People wear simple, colorful tunics instead of heavy, formal togas. The air smells of roasted pork, sweet wine and burning wax. It is a necessary release valve for a highly structured world. By letting the rules slip, the society finds the strength to survive another year. The long winter nights feel just a little bit warmer. In the very center of ancient Rome stands a massive bronze monument. It catches the bright midday sun. This is the Golden Milestone. Emperor Augustus placed it here to mark the exact center of the empire. You have likely heard that all roads lead to this city. That phrase was once a physical truth. The tall metal column served as the literal mile zero for the ancient world. If you look closely at the gleaming bronze, you can see lists of distant cities carved into the surface. Next to each name is a precise number. These numbers tell travelers exactly how far they are from the edges of the known world. The stone plaza around it is always busy. Yet the monument itself feels quiet and permanent. It anchors the vast network of stone roads stretching out across continents. Every journey begins and ends right here at this single point. Just a few steps away sits another strange marker. It is a small structure shaped like a cone. Builders made it from neat layers of red brick. This modest cone is the navel of the city. Citizens believed it was the exact symbolic center of their world. It was not just a map reference. They saw it as a sacred hinge. This spot marked the precise place where the world of the living met the world below. The brickwork casts a long, quiet shadow in the late afternoon. People walk past it on their way to the markets. Most do not give it a second glance. But the small monument holds a heavy meaning. It grounds the sprawling city to the earth beneath it. The stones around the base are worn smooth from centuries of footsteps. It is a quiet reminder of the deep roots beneath the busy streets. Nearby, in the same grand square, lies a deep stone pit. A massive, heavy lid covers the dark hole. This is the door to the underworld. For most of the year, the heavy stone stays firmly in place. The city moves around it without a thought. But on 3 specific days each year, priests carefully lift the lid. They open the pit to let the spirits of the dead roam the streets. A faint, cool mist sometimes rises from the dark opening. The air around the pit feels suddenly still. The ritual is quiet and deeply respected. No battles are fought on these days. No ships set sail from the harbor. The living simply share their city with the unseen for a brief time. Then, the heavy stone is pushed back over the hole. The seal is restored. The busy life of the plaza slowly returns to normal. There is another spot in the plaza that people quietly avoid. It is a distinct square of smooth black marble. A low stone wall surrounds the dark paving stones. This is the Black Stone. It marks a deeply sacred and ancient site. Citizens believe it is the resting place of the city's first king. No one steps on the dark marble. Even in the middle of a crowded festival, a small pocket of empty space remains around it. The black stone absorbs the warm sunlight, but stays cool to the touch. It feels older than the grand temples rising nearby. The low wall protects the mystery of the founder. People lower their voices when they walk past the enclosure. The dark square is a piece of quiet history resting in plain sight. It anchors the modern empire to its oldest, most fragile legends. Water flows constantly beneath these sacred stones. The main sewer is a massive underground tunnel. It drains the marshy valleys and keeps the center dry. This dark, rushing water is so vital that it has its own deity. The Romans built a small, circular shrine right over a stone grate. They dedicated it to the goddess of the sewer. The low stone altar sits quietly in the bright sunlight. It is a strange but practical kind of worship. The city cannot survive without the deep tunnels carrying water away. so they honor the flow. You can hear the faint sound of rushing water echoing up through the grate. The shrine is simple and unadorned. It lacks the towering columns of the sky gods. But it receives quiet thanks every single day. The health of the entire empire depends on the dark, unseen currents moving below the marble. The underground tunnels eventually empty into the wide river. The water here is deep and murky. A highly specialized group of free divers keeps the riverbed clear. They are known as the water seekers. These ancient salvage experts swim deep into the heavy currents. They hold their breath for long, quiet minutes. To reach the bottom quickly, they carry smooth lead weights. The heavy metal pulls them down through the cloudy water. Down in the cold dark, they feel along the sandy floor. They recover lost cargo, dropped tools and sunken goods. It is dangerous, silent work. The divers move by touch in the dim light. When they find something valuable, they kick back up to the surface. They break the water with a sharp gasp of air. Their small wooden boats bob gently on the current. They rest for a moment, and then they dive again. A sturdy stone bridge crosses the calm river nearby. It is the oldest surviving span in the city. The elegant arches are built from thick blocks of pale stone. The original builder left a deeply practical mark on his work. He had his name carved clearly into the weathered rock. The inscription is a legally binding promise. It forced his own estate to guarantee the structural integrity of the arches. The guarantee lasted for 40 years after the final stone was laid. The builder staked his family's wealth on his engineering. The morning light catches the deep grooves of the Latin letters. The stone feels solid and unmoving underfoot. Water rushes gently against the thick piers below. The bridge has stood long past its 40-year promise. It is a quiet testament to careful work. The carved letters remain sharp, holding the builder to his ancient word. Away from the river, a busy street forms the literary heart of the capital. Small shops line the narrow road. This is where the booksellers work. The air smells of dry papyrus and warm dust. Outside the quiet stores, tall wooden pillars stand in the sun. Shop owners carefully write the titles of new scrolls on these posts. Passing readers can browse the latest poetry without stepping inside. The wooden shelves are packed with neatly rolled texts. People pause in the street to read the lists. They look for philosophy, history, or a new play. The street is loud with footsteps, but the shops themselves are hushed. A buyer unrolls a crisp sheet of papyrus to check the handwriting. The ink is dark and fresh. The wooden pillars act as ancient billboards. They turn a simple walk down the street into a quiet journey through new ideas. Walking into a wealthy home requires careful attention. Citizens are deeply superstitious about doorways. It is considered terrible luck to step over a threshold with your left foot first. The fear of bad luck is very real. To prevent disaster, rich families employ a specific servant. His only job is to watch the front door. He stands quietly by the grand entrance all day. When guests arrive, he gently makes sure they enter right foot first. The morning sun lights up a beautiful mosaic floor just inside the house. The servant wears a simple tunic and waits in the shadows. He does not speak much. He just watches the feet of everyone who visits. It is a small, strange rhythm of daily life. The house stays safe from unseen harm. The guests feel welcomed and secure. The quiet watcher at the door keeps the luck of the family intact. Inside the dining room, the floor plays a clever trick on the eye. Wealthy owners sometimes commission a unique style of art. It is known as the unswept floor mosaic. The intricate artwork creates a perfect optical illusion. Tiny colored stones are arranged to look like fallen food. You can see fake olive pits, fruit peels, and cracked nuts resting on the ground. The stones even cast tiny permanent shadows. The floor captures the messy memory of a lavish feast. It freezes a moment of celebration in solid rock. The soft, natural light makes the fake scraps look incredibly real. Guests often step carefully, thinking they might crush a walnut shell. The room is quiet now, but the floor remembers the noise of a party. The tiny stones are swept clean every day. Yet the beautiful, messy illusion remains perfectly intact on the smooth ground. The kitchens prepare strange luxuries for these grand feasts. The ultimate rich food is not just imported spices. It is actually a tiny rodent. Cooks keep small dormice in special terracotta jars. The round clay pots have tiny air holes punched in the sides. The jars sit in the dark, quiet corners of the rustic kitchen. The cooks feed the mice a rich diet of walnuts and sweet acorns. The animals grow plump in the cool shadows. When the time is right, they are roasted whole, over a warm fire. Finally, they are dipped in thick, golden honey. The warm glow of the cooking fire lights the heavy clay jars. A small dish of cracked nuts rests on the stone counter. It is a highly specific taste of extreme wealth. The tiny jars are a quiet secret behind the massive, loud banquets served in the dining rooms. Out in the sunny courtyard, another strange luxury swims in a clear pool. Wealthy aristocrats have a bizarre fascination with keeping moray eels as pets. They build elaborate saltwater ponds lined with smooth marble. The large, dark fish glide silently through the shallow water. Some owners become deeply attached to their slippery pets. They visit the pools every afternoon to feed them by hand. A few even adorn their favorite eels with custom-made jewelry. You might see a tiny glint of gold near the gills of a massive fish. When a beloved eel dies, the owners reportedly weep in genuine grief. The warm afternoon sun heats the marble edges of the pond. The water ripples gently as the dark shapes move below. It is a quiet, expensive hobby. The fierce ocean predators are transformed into pampered, glittering companions in the heart of the busy city. The owners of these grand homes dress in strict accordance with the law. Wearing the color purple is heavily regulated. The famous dye is made from thousands of rotting sea snails. The process is slow, foul, and unimaginably expensive. The rich, dark color becomes the ultimate symbol of power. Eventually, the rules become absolute. Only the ruler of the empire is legally allowed to wear a solid purple toga. Breaking this law carries the penalty of death. The heavy wool fabric absorbs the deep color beautifully. A purple cloak draped over a marble chair looks almost black in the dim light. The warm glow of an oil lamp catches the rich texture of the cloth. It is a quiet, heavy garment. The color itself is a weapon of status. A single shade of dyed wool separates one man from the rest of the entire world. Even the most powerful man in the world has deep fears. The first emperor is absolutely terrified of thunderstorms. He believes in strange magic to keep himself safe. He always carries a piece of dried seal skin as a lightning charm. When dark clouds roll in, the ruler does not stay in his grand halls. He retreats to a small, windowless underground vault. The thick stone walls block out the flash of the sky. He sits in a simple wooden chair and waits. The room is lit only by a single flickering oil lamp. The air is cool and perfectly still. He stays hidden in the dark until the thunder finally stops. The sealskin rests quietly on the seat beside him. It is a very human moment of panic. The man who commands massive armies hides in a tiny basement to escape the loud weather. The fear of storms is tied to strict religious laws. If lightning strikes a tree, a rock, or a building, that object instantly belongs to the sky god. The struck item must be formally buried right where it sits. Priests build a small, low circular wall around the spot. The enclosed area becomes sacred ground. It is strictly illegal for anyone to step inside the stones. A charred, shattered tree trunk might sit quietly in the middle of a grassy field. The low wall protects the burned wood from wandering feet. The site feels isolated and quiet under the cloudy sky. The city simply builds around these sudden monuments. A random flash of weather creates a permanent change in the map. The burned objects are left alone to slowly decay. They are quiet reminders that the gods can claim any piece of the earth in an instant. The gods also inspire bitter rivalries among the people. The city built a simple stone temple to the goddess of modesty. It sits tucked into a quiet neighborhood street. But the wealthy women and the working-class women could not agree. They argued viciously over who was actually allowed to worship at the altar. The fight became so intense that the city split the worship. They ended up building two completely separate, rival temples to modesty. The second shrine stands in quiet defiance. A few fresh flowers rest on the small altar in the soft afternoon sunlight. The stone walls are elegant but plain. It is a strange monument to a very petty dispute. The two groups refuse to share their quiet prayers. They each demand their own sacred space. The twin temples prove that even the virtue of modesty can become a fierce competition. High on a steep hill, a different temple relies on unusual guards. A flock of large white geese lives on the marble steps. They are dedicated to the goddess of marriage and childbirth. The birds rest quietly overlooking the sleeping city below. The citizens treat these animals with immense respect. According to an old legend, the geese once saved the entire capital. Their loud honking woke the sleeping guards just in time. They stopped a stealthy night attack by foreign warriors. Now the sacred flock lives a peaceful life. The soft, cool light of a full moon shines on their white feathers. They waddle slowly across the grand stone plaza. The city feeds them well and leaves them alone. They are living monuments to a very loud night. The quiet birds hold a place of high honor above the busy streets of the empire. Inside another dark, quiet temple hangs the ultimate military prize. It is an honor so difficult to achieve that it only happened 3 times in 1,000 years. A general must personally kill an enemy king in single, hand-to-hand combat. Then, he must strip the armor from the fallen ruler. This captured gear is displayed proudly on an oak trunk. The battered foreign bronze armor rests in the dim shadows. A single oil lamp flickers nearby. The metal is dented and scratched from the final fight. The room is silent, and smells of old dust. This is not a massive monument to a giant battle. It is a deeply personal trophy. It represents one man defeating another in the dirt. The empty armor hangs as a quiet ghost. It is the rarest sight in a city obsessed with the glory of war. The citizens find their own fierce battles at the racing track. Fans are deeply devoted to their favorite chariot teams. The factions are known simply by their colors. You are loyal to the red, white, blue, or green. The devotion runs deep in the city streets. To show this pride, the horses wear elaborate decorations. Beautifully crafted leather harnesses wrap around their strong chests. Hand-dyed ribbons are braided into their dark manes. Bright feathered plumes bounce gently on their heads. A calm, majestic horse might stand peacefully in a stone courtyard. Its vibrant blue ribbons match the tunic of its driver. The colors turn the animals into living flags. The fans roar when their colors enter the massive dirt track. But before the race, the horses are quiet. They stand patiently, while grooms adjust the bright feathers in the warm morning sun. The massive stone amphitheater offers a different kind of spectacle. The sun beats down hard on the open seats. To shade the massive crowd, engineers designed a retractable canvas roof. It is a complex web of thick ropes and heavy fabric. Operating this giant awning is incredibly difficult. The city drafts a special detachment of sailors from the Imperial Navy just to run it. The sailors climb high above the stone walls. They pull miles of rope across the open sky. Massive panels of tan canvas slide into place. The fabric casts deep, cooling shadows on the stone seating below. The bright sunlight filters softly through the heavy cloth. The sailors move with quiet precision. They treat the giant roof like the sails of a massive ship. The crowd stays cool in the shade, completely unaware of the complex rigging floating high above their heads. Another massive roof once covered the grand voting hall. It was the largest timber span ever built in the city. The wooden beams stretched across an unimaginably wide space. But a fierce fire destroyed the original structure. When it came time to rebuild, the later engineers were baffled. The gap was simply too wide. They could not figure out how the first builders had supported the heavy wood. So they gave up. They left the grand stone walls peacefully open to the sky. Today, sunlight pours into the vast, empty interior. The stone floor is bathed in bright, natural light. The missing roof turns the massive hall into a quiet, open courtyard. It is a strange admission of lost knowledge. The towering walls stand strong, but the sky serves as the only ceiling. The open air is a permanent monument to a forgotten engineering trick. The builders did not always fail. The grand porch of the temple to all gods proves their skill. The massive, 40-foot granite columns were not carved locally. They were quarried far away in the deserts of Egypt. Workers dragged the smooth grey stone shafts to the Nile. They floated them across the Mediterranean Sea on special heavy barges. Finally, they hauled the massive stones up the local river. It was a logistical miracle of the ancient world. Now, the towering columns rest quietly on white marble bases. They cast long, heavy shadows across the stone portico. The bright sunlight warms the smooth granite. The sheer size of the stone is hard to comprehend. They stand as silent proof of an empire that could move mountains across the ocean. The quiet porch hides the massive, noisy effort it took to bring the stones here. Engineering also changed the quiet luxury of the public baths. The massive heated rooms needed to stay warm. But the bathers also wanted natural sunlight. To solve this, engineers developed some of the earliest known window glass. They set thick, slightly cloudy panes into the high stone walls. This new glass transformed the entire bathing experience. The rooms glowed with soft, diffused light. At the same time, the thick panes trapped the warm air inside. You can see the calm pools of water reflecting the bright windows. The marble floors stay warm underfoot. The glass is not perfectly clear. It bends the light into gentle, watery shapes on the stone walls. It is a perfect balance of nature and design. The bathers can relax in the deep heat, while watching the sun move slowly across the cloudy glass above them. One specific room in the baths requires special gear. The dry sweating room is heated to extreme, blistering temperatures. The air is thick and shimmers with intense dry heat. The beautiful geometric mosaic floors become scorching hot. Bathers simply cannot walk barefoot in this small circular room. To protect themselves, they wear special thick wooden sandals. The carved wood keeps the soles of their feet from burning on the hot stones. A pair of these heavy sandals might rest quietly by the door. The domed ceiling traps the intense heat perfectly. A single high window lets in a narrow beam of light. The room is silent except for the slow, heavy breathing of the bathers. It is a harsh, punishing kind of relaxation. The thick wooden shoes are a strange necessity in a place built entirely for comfort and ease. The most absurd engineering feat happened out on the calm, blue bay. A prophecy once claimed the emperor had no chance of ruling. It said he had a better chance of riding a horse across the open water. To prove the prophecy wrong, he ordered a temporary, 2-mile floating bridge built. Workers lashed thousands of wooden merchant ships tightly together. They covered the decks with a thick layer of dirt to look like a real road. The massive structure stretched all the way across the quiet bay. The emperor rode his horse across the ships just to make a point. The bridge sat empty under the bright sun. It was a staggering waste of resources. The calm water lapped gently against the wooden hulls. It was a monument to pure ego. The floating road existed briefly, just to satisfy the whim of a single man. Our walk through ancient Rome is coming to an end. Wherever you've drifted to, you don't need to come back, There's nothing more to listen for tonight. Sleep well.